Learn how to use closures to keep and update a variable across multiple function calls. This example creates a counter that remembers its value every time the button is clicked. So let's build this example together. So a closure lets a function remember a variable even after the outer function has finished running. So let's look at an example together. In my HTML section, you can see I have two comments here. Add a p tag with an ID of demo 1. So I'll go ahead and make the p tag and attach an ID to it. Then I'll put 0 because I want it to be the starting point for the count. Then I can also add a button ID to the btn rather, and then type button. And I also want to add an on click. To this button that I have here. So the click will just call a function when it is being clicked on. So then I will add a text of count just as we have here. And now you can see my HTML section is ready. If I click on it, it's not going to do anything. So let's move on and move into the script tag. So inside the script tag, what do we want to do? Well, let's use comment as well to outline some things that we'll do. So we'll create a function for my counter. Then we can declare counter to be 0 inside it. So what else do we need? Well, we need a way to run an inner function. Then our inner function should update counter, which is our outer function, and then we need a way to store results in heart, which is another function we need to make. And finally, we can call the add function or button click, which is why we have the button here that you can see. So let's start going through this one by one. First of all, we need to create function by counter. So I'll go ahead and make that function. Function, the name is already given by counter. And inside it, I will declare counter to be equals to 0. And now inside it again, I want to run an inner function. So what should that inner function do? So I'm not giving it any name other than I want it to be returned inside my counter function. So what do I want it to return? I want it to increment the counter by 1. And once that is done, it should return the counter itself. Now I have my function set up. Now outside of this, I want to add the result from this my counter. I want to save it inside my heart as a variable. So my add is now a variable that contains the result from my counter function. Now that I have it, then I can make another function and call it my function. You can see that there is need for another function, because if you look at what we are calling inside our button, this on click is calling a function, my function, which you don't have yet. So that is what we are trying to do. So I'll go ahead and add that function, and inside it, I want to get the ID of the elements that I want to manipulate. So which is this .inner.html, and then it will be the add variable. And if I go ahead and press this button now, this should work. 1, 2, you can see I can now use this button to start counting to as many numbers as I want. Now, This example creates a counter that remembers its value every time the button is clicked, and this is coming from what we have here inside the code. Now, my counter, which is this code, it runs once. So the counter is created and then it will keep it in memory. When it runs once, then it will update the value to be 1. Then the inner function, which is this, sorry, is return and stored inside this add variable. So each click calls add, and that triggers the function of my counter. So the counter increases and is remembered. So it remembers, the last time it was 1, now it should be 2, now it should be 3, and update value is now displayed. So that's how the counter is able to remember the previous value in its memory and keep updating it. Now, here the outer function that, as you can see, it runs once and it creates counter. It returns another function, and that return function remembers counter, which is inside of this return function. So every time we click the button, it keeps increasing instead of starting from 0. So closure simply means function that remembers its data, and this is a very bright example to explain it. Now, noticeably, the key concepts in this lesson are these. Number 1, closures remember variable, just as you can see with the way it increases count. Number 2, the return functions keep access to outer scope. You can see this. And number 3, state is preserved between calls, which means it keeps each state persistent. So it's not starting from 0 every time. It remembers the previous value and increment on it instead of starting from 0. So that way it is able to preserve state using closure. Closure allows JavaScript to maintain state without using global variable. It turns functions into powerful state holder, and this is widely used in real application. For example, let's say you are building a counter, a timer, or a data tracking application. You can find this very useful in the course of building such.